Okay, Chevra, let's get started here. Yesterday we started a new sugya in Hamesechta Taanit. What's that?
Came to have a drink.
Came to have a drink. There you go. You'd give them an aleph. We started a new sugya. There's two types of RbPaRC Hamesechta. He told us there's two types of fast days. There's fast days that are meant to be based on Avelut, morning. For example, Tisha B'Av, which we remember Chorban Bayit. That's morning. So that's the fast days that are dependent on morning. And then we have other types of fast days, like the rain fasts. You guys are good to see you, man. Get some chicken wings. The fast because of the rain. How could he sit? We can make him sit a little bit. He's a little space, no? I feel like this is not very accommodating.
Are you behaving?
So, the other type is these rain fasts, for example, which are not fast days based on mourning, but rather they're days that we're supposed to refrain from pleasure. It means we're supposed to be in a certain degree of suffering, refraining from pleasure, as a sort of kapara, teshuvah. Okay, fine, we know about it. Fine. Good. So now, RbPaRC Hamesechta told us yesterday, depending on the type of fast, the nature of the fast.
These are the fries. We don't have a lot of fries, man.
All right. It's going to be. Okay.
That's okay. I have now. You put it on
Fine.
your
It's fine. Yosef.
Good.
No.
It's good. Never look. Hey, you put one back. Thank you. Come. You put.
All right. Leave it alone, Yosef. It's okay.
Funny guy.
So, if it's a type of fast that's based on Avedut, maybe you want to join us? Bakasha.
אלה שם אכלו את הסושי.
No. Here, בבקשה.
אבל הם בכו על ה...
בבקשה. Hebrew, you speak a little bit Hebrew. Little bit.
You know in English. One second. I give it to him to make the illusion.
You know the
על הסושי שם. אהרון וכל החבר'ה שם. Okay?
Kitzur, Shema. Okay, no Shema. Can't get a word in edgewise over here. Okay, Yosef, should I move the shear to the other table and you'll deal with the food here? Should I move the shear there and you'll deal with the food here? So then let's get started.
Welcome.
No, Yosef. You have to be a little bit quiet so that we can learn a little bit, right? Okay, no, Mayor, you can sit. It's okay. Hey, you know what? Move over a little bit. Everybody move over a little bit. Let's do it like this. Move over. Spread out over a little bit. This we call rearrangement. Rearrangement here. Natan, come, Vakasha. All right, you guys, Yosef loves you. Should I tell you how I know Yosef loves you? I was trying to start the class and he kept interrupting me. I think it's because he wanted everybody to be here when we start. That's what I think. I think that's the shot. That's what I'm saying. I think it's because he wants everyone to be here when we start. Or the answer could be everybody could come on time and we could start the shiur on time. That's the other option. Shema. We could do that option too. That would make it a lot easier for me. I don't get paid extra, so.
No, so you're gonna.
I'd rather start on time.
We'll give you a discount.
I'd rather start on time.
We will speak with that one, don't worry.
Alibi.
He's my brother-in-law. I have a yichus.
Yeah, good luck. All right. Chevra.
Yes.
Let's get started. You don't get food?
I just ate. Plus I ate sushi.
Yalla, Chevra, let's get started. Okay, this Gemara we're going to learn today requires a bit of focus. Requires a bit of focus, like every day. But today, we're going to learn a little bit. We need a little bit of focus. Ezat Hashem. RbPaRC Hamesechta told us yesterday that there's two types of fast days. Two types of fast days. Beautiful. There's fast days because of mourning, that are based on mourning. And there's fast days that are mishum ta'anug. What does that mean? That it's not because of mourning, but rather to refrain, to stay away from pleasure, to be to be in pain. Let's just give examples. Tisha B'Av is mishum Avelut. It's Avelut, the Churban. That's what Tisha. It's a fast day to Taanit based on Avelut. Now, what's an example of the other type? Taanug. What's an example?
Taanit Tzibur.
So Taanit Tzibur. For example, the fast days of rain that we've been talking about. If there's no rain, Chazal decree fast days. One second. We stay away from pleasure on those fast days. That's not mourning, that's not avelut, but rather to refrain from pleasure. Now, Rav from RbPaRC Amar Chisda tells us a very important difference between these two types of fast days. If it's a fast day of avelut like Tisha B'Av, you're not allowed to do rechitza, to wash in hot water, b'chamin, and also not in tzoneh, even in cold water. Tisha B'Av, you're not allowed to wash in hot water or cold water. But if it's mishum ta'anug, it's to stay away from pleasure, like these rain fasts that we've been talking about. So you don't wash in hot water because that's ta'anug, but you are allowed to wash in cold water. This was the chiluk that he told us yesterday. Okay? Now, yesterday we went back and forth if there was a proof from our Mishnah. We concluded it is a proof from our Mishnah. Actually, it supported his yesod. We had a proof from our Mishnah. I'll just say it very briefly. That the Mishnah is talking about fast days Chazal made because of lack of rain. Because of rain, no rain, which is Mishum Ta'anug. And the way that Ravidi Bar Ravin was medayek, he implied from our Mishnah, is the Mishnah only prohibits hot water because it's Mishum Ta'anug. That's a proof to Rav from RbPaRC Amar Chisda. What we're going to do today is to go to another attempted proof. We're going to try to bring another proof. Now, what was your question?
Nothing.
Oh, you had a question before. Okay.
Also in Erev Shabbat, do you go to Tvila? Do you go
That's
in
a good
cold
question.
water?
That's an excellent question, and it's interesting you're saying that because we're about to talk about people going to the mikveh right now. We're going to much talk about that right now. Now, we're not talking about Erev Shabbat. We're going to talk about people that have a mitzvah to go to the mikveh. For example, a nida. When you go to the mikveh Erev Shabbat, it's not a mitzvah. It's a minhag. It's a nice thing to do. But there's certain people, they have a chiyuv to go to the mikveh. Nida. For it to become Torah, she has to go to the mikveh. So we're going to bring a proof from a discussion about a nida. Or yoledet, Rashi says, a woman who just gave birth. She's also tmeya. So we're going to bring a proof from these examples to support what Rav Chisda, Rav from RbPaRC was saying before.
When we say Taanit Mishum Avelut,
Yes.
which is Tisha B'Av,
Right.
what about Asara B'Tevet and Yudzayin B'Tammuz?
That's a good question.
If they are leading you to if they're part of the
Also,
Churban.
Avelut.
Excellent question. And based on what he just said and what you're assuming, it is avelut, and you shouldn't be allowed to wash in cold water.
But it's called Taanit Tzibur.
That's a very good question. So that is not so clear, right? That's not so clear. Hold off on that question. It's a good question, though. Because the Chor, you'd say it's avelut. It is based on the Churban also.
Right.
Good question. Good question. Let's see. So
Good
says the
question,
Gemara like
mindset.
this. Oh, let's leave it off for now. We're not going to focus on that right now. Let's see.
Now.
Let's see. Bezat Hashem. Okay, we're holding Leima Misayeh Ale. Leima Misayeh Ale is Yud Gimel Amud Aleph. Yud Gimel Amud Aleph. Leima Misayeh Ale. It's about 12 lines from the top of the page. Leima Misayeh Ale, right there. Leima Misayeh Ale.
What is Lema?
Yeah.
Let us say. Let us say. Well, no mal. Let's suggest. Lema. You got it, doctor? Lema say it's Yud Gimel Amud Aleph.
Next to Dalet, basically.
It's about 12, 13, 14 lines down the page. The first one line is mutar.
First one is mutar. Okay,
So let's see this proof. However, let's look through the proof and then we'll explain how it supports this what we've just suggested, how it supports.
Right.
Let's see. Lema Misayeh Ale. Eliezer Yeshcha? You got it? Let's suggest Misayeh means a proof, like a si'ua. Let's assume this is the following is going to be a proof. This is a Braita, I assume. The Braita says like this. Kol chayavei tefilot. Anyone that is chayav to go to the mikveh. Now, like I said, when Meir goes to the mikveh Erev Shabbat, you're not chayav to go to the mikveh. You're not chayav. It's a nice thing. It's a nice minhag chasidut. You're not chayav to go to the mikveh, okay? But when a nida is tmeya, if she has to become Torah, she has to go to the mikveh. Yoledet, a woman who gave birth, that's also a similar, she has to go to the mikveh in order to become Torah, right? That's chiyuv.
Is that, when we don't have Beis Hamikdash, is it Rabbanan now, or is it still D'Oraisa?
I don't see why I don't see why that should be contingent on having a Beit HaMikdash. Tumah is Tumah. Yeah,
We're all tummy, that's what I'm saying.
it's true,
right
but
now.
we're all tamei met. We're not tamei as an ida. That's a different story, right? That's a different story. Kol chayavei tefilot. You're right, though. We are tamei met. You're right. Kol chayavei tefilot tovlin kedarkan on fast days. Okay. Anyone who is chayav to go to the mikveh, tovlin kedarkan, they can go to the mikveh kedarkan, on a, like their normal way. Bein b'tisha b'av, bein b'yom kippurim. Both on Tisha B'Av and on Yom Kippur. Now, we mentioned yesterday. One second. We mentioned yesterday we weren't really discussing Yom Kippur because that's Doraita. But let's focus in on Tisha B'Av.
So we don't do it on Kippur.
Okay, so here, let's see. The Braita here seems to be saying if Tisha B'Av falls out to be the night she has to go to the mikveh, Anida, she goes to the mikveh Kedarka, the normal way. On Tisha B'Av. Okay, it's asur, that's true. But she'll still go to the mikveh in the normal way on Tisha B'Av. Okay? Let's see. So now.
But he say that אסורים בחמים ובין בצונן משום אבלות.
Yes.
So I wonder to myself, how if they asur בתשמיש המיטה,
it's true.
Why to go basically to the mikveh?
It's a mitzvah because it's a chiyuv. So
if
what's the
no,
point?
Like it's push off.
But listen.
Putting the gold in our hands.
I hear you saying it's lifnei iver a little bit. I hear that's a good point. But listen to this, Chevra. Listen to the diuk we're about to make. If the Braita says who's allowed to go to the mikveh on Tisha B'Av, chayav in tefillah, someone who's chayav. What does that imply? That everyone else
Not chayav.
is not allowed to. Now, which type of water are we talking about? Cold water or hot water?
Mikveh is hot water.
Well, let's think about it for a second. Usually, what would a mikveh be? Hot water or cold water?
Usually it's hot.
So what the Gemara? So like this. We, Baruch Hashem, today have fantastic indoor
Unless you
plumbing.
want to go to Shema.
One second, Chevra, listen, Shema.
Mikveh.
Oh, everyone is saying smart things, but listen for a second. Look, the Gemara is going to make the following assumption. What is Mayim She'uvim? Does anybody know what's Mayim She'uvim? What's Mayim She'uv? Lish'ov. What's Ush'afte Mayim? Bisason Mimanei Yeshu. What's Ush'afte Mayim? Draw. Mikveh. Lish'ov. Draw is Lish'ov. Oh. You're not allowed to have a mikveh of Mayim She'uvim. Water of a mikveh cannot be drawn. It can't be water that went into a keli, a vessel, and then was put into the mikveh. It's not allowed. Not allowed.
All the water.
You can't.
It's a spring water.
It needs to be.
Take a little bit from the rain and then fill
It needs to be. It needs to be spring water. Let's say spring water, rainwater, spring water, and then it's gathered in sort of a pit, and then you could use it as a mikveh. Okay, I'm not going to get into the halachot of mikveh so much. Let's just take that for granted. It can't be drawn. So in a vessel. In a vessel.
Well, the pit is not a vessel.
No, let's say it's not. Exactly. Let's assume it's not. To heat up water, the Gemara is going to assume like this. By definition, to heat up water would make it into Mayim She'uvim. To heat it up would require it to be in some sort of a vessel. And therefore, when we're talking about mikveh over here, that a chayavei tefilot could go, it must be, what is it saying?
Cold water.
That she's allowed to go into a mikveh that is
Cold.
which implies that other people are not allowed to go to a mikveh of cold. And what type of fast day are we talking about? Avelut. So it's a beautiful proof. Everybody here, it's a beautiful proof. Let me say it again. The Braita says that Anida, Chayavei Tefilot, they're allowed to go to the mikveh like normal. Says the Gemara, well, what type of water are we talking about? Can't be hot water, because that would be naturally Mayim She'uvim. That would be drawn water. It's pasul for a mikveh. So it must be we're talking about cold water. She's allowed to go to a mikveh of cold water. By emphasizing, she's allowed to go to a mikveh, because she's chayav in tefillah, she has to go to a mikveh, she has a mitzvah. So for her, she's allowed. But that implies everyone else is not allowed to go in cold water. And we're talking about Tisha B'Av. So this is a proof. You see that when it comes to fasts of Avelut, regular people, besides for a person who's chayav tefillah, is asur ben bechamin ben betzoneh. Beautiful proof. Let's read it inside now. Lema Misayele, says the Gemara, let's bring a proof to Rav from Bar Papa. Kol chayavei tefilot. The Braita says all people are chayav to go to the mikveh. Tovlin kedarkan, they can be tovel normally. Bein b'Tisha B'Av, bein b'Yom HaKippurim, both Tisha B'Av and Yom Kippur. So says the Gemara, that's the Braita. B'mai, what type of water are we talking about? Ilema b'chamin, if we're talking about chamin, chamin doesn't mean cholent here. Chamin means hot water. If it means hot water, tefillah b'chamin mi'ika. Is there mikveh? Is there going to tefillah in hot water? She'uvinenu. That's drawn. The Gemara assumes the way you heat it up is putting it in a keli. That's not going to be kosher anymore for mikveh. So it can't be saying she goes in hot water because that's not kosher for mikveh. Elalav. So the Gemara says, isn't it bitzonen? It's talking about that she could go to a mikveh of cold water. Then what's the implication? Then what's the diuk? What's that mashma? V'chayavei tevilot in, because she is chayav tefillah in. Yes, she is allowed to go into cold water, but inish acharina, it's like anashim acherim, other people, lo. So no, they're not allowed. So the fact that the Braita is saying she could go to the mikveh and it's cold, like we just explained, it has to be cold, must be regular people are not allowed to go in a cold water on Tisha B'Av. So this is a proof to RbPaRC exactly that a fast day of Avelut, you're not even allowed to go into cold. Beautiful proof.
Now, how do we warm it up today?
Hold on. No. We have it worked out today. They worked it out. Don't worry. The mikveh is kosher. Don't worry. It is kosher. It is. But in general, that was the assumption.
If you want to go to cold water, I send you somewhere in Israel, spot. You will never forget. Mikveh.
So listen to the next step. Keep the logic here. So what we're assuming is that she could go to the mikveh, and it has to be cold, because if it's hot, it would be considered she'uvim. So it must be cold, and therefore, you see from here, on a fast of Avelut, even cold water is asur. So it's a proof. Everybody hears the proof clear? Good. Now the Gemara says a pircha, a refutation. This is going to say it's not a proof. I'll tell you. Maybe really when it says in the Braita she could go to the mikveh, it means a hot mikveh. How could she go in a hot mikveh? So the Gemara is going to say, there's no such thing. It's drawn water, it's shuvim. So the Gemara is going to say, no, I'll tell you how she could go to a hot mikveh. She'll go to Chamei Tveria. What's Chamei Tveria?
The water from the
hot springs of Tveria. It's very nice. It's good. So maybe what the Braita is saying is, she's allowed to go to the hot springs of Tveria. That's a kosher mikveh. Other people are not allowed to go into hot water. But maybe, really cold water is also us. Maybe cold water is mutar. Listen to the pircha. Maybe really cold water is mutar on a fast day of Avelut. It's really mutar for everyone across the board. What does it say over here she is allowed to do that's different than everyone else? Hot water. Chamei Tveria. So therefore you don't have a proof, says the Gemara. Let me read it inside and then you'll ask me your questions. Amar Rav Chana bar Ketzina. Rav Chana bar Ketzina says, Lo netzrecha. It's only necessary. Maybe really the Braita is only necessary. El Chamei Tveria. Talking about the hot springs of Tveria. So maybe you don't have a proof. Maybe really cold water is mutar. It's mutar for everyone on a fast day of Avelut. Not like Rav from Bar Papa was saying. What is she going to that others can't go to? She's going to Chamei Tveria, other people can't go to that. But really cold water would be mutar. You don't have a proof. Everybody hears the pircha? Good. Yeah, what do you say?
But I just have a contradiction here.
What's the contradiction?
If it's of Avelut, we say asur betzonen, asur becham. So what?
What was that? Slow down. What?
In Avelut.
Yeah. Rav from Bar Papa said it's asur in both.
Asur in both.
But we're trying to bring a proof. We just throw away the proof.
But there is exception cases.
The only exception is this woman has to go to the mikveh. Yeah.
In this case,
That's it.
Even if let's say a person is Avel, and a woman she's in Avelut.
It's a different story. Chiyuvei tefilot is a different story. Let's say it's a different story.
She's still able to go deep in the mikveh.
I'm not pasking the halacha, but the Braita says it's a different story. But the point is, from her you see the normal thing.
But don't you learn it from Minagah Avelut to implicate on the fast days?
That's right, it's the same.
So I'm asking
The
you,
fast days of Avelut, of
if you say
Tisha B'Av.
7 days of Shiva lo alenu,
Okay, don't get so complicated. The point is, if it's Avelut, Rav from RbPaRC said it's Asur ben bechamin ben betzonen. The Braita seemed to be a great proof because she can't be going to a hot water mikveh because that's she'uvim. But the Gemara says, no, maybe she is. Maybe she's going to Chamei Tiveria. But cold is bichlal, mutar for everyone.
but this is natural spring. If it's hot or cold, who cares?
Well, the point that's being made here is there is an option to have a hot mikveh. So maybe with the Braita...
But it's not like the Mechatzaot.
Okay, but the point is maybe what the Braita is saying, she could go to Chamei Tiveria and other people can't. But everyone could go to cold water. So it's not a proof to Rav from RbPaRC.
How do we know?
You hear this or no?
Yeah, I get it, but it's just like a spring water. It's not that there is something to heat the water.
It's
natural.
true, but it is Chamei. It's Chamei Tiveria. It's hot. That's the point, because that's the point you're trying to prove. Is both Asur on a fast day of Avelut or not?
So wait a second. Tisha B'Av is Avelut.
Yeah, Avelut.
But Yom Kippur is
As I said, don't focus on Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur is the right. It's a different story altogether. You're right. That's a different story.
Anyways,
We're talking about the rabbinic level. So everybody hears the Pircha.
and these days, it's very distracting, isn't it? I mean, in terms of...
I would imagine. Probably. Yeah, imagine. So everybody here, now we don't have a proof anymore. What we just did was, we said it's not a proof. Maybe really cold is mutar, bichlal, across the board. What does it mean she's allowed to do something that others can't do? Chamei Tiveria. Good?
But maybe it's an exception.
It's an exception. Maybe.
It's an exception.
The point is, then you don't have a proof. Here, you don't have a proof. That's the point.
It's basically mevatel the opinion of Rav from RbPaRC.
It's not a proof to Rav from RbPaRC.
Because there is Chametz Veria.
Exactly. So let's see this. So now it's the answer. The Gemara says you cannot tell me that. Why can't you tell me that? Because the Seifa, the end of that Braita, then doesn't make any sense. Listen to the end of the Braita. Iachi, says the Gemara, if the beginning of the Braita, she's allowed to go and others are not allowed, is talking about Chamei Tiveria, and then you don't have a proof necessarily. Hello? Iachi, says the Gemara, if that's true, Hamesechta. Shalom Aleichem, Bruchim Abayim. Welcome. Iachi Hamesechta, if so, look at the Seifa, look at the end of the Braita. Amar Rabbi Chanina Skana Kohanim. Rabbi Chanina Skana Kohanim. Skana Kohanim means he was the assistant to the Kohen Gadol. He was the assistant. Rabbi Chanina says, Rabbi Chanina Skana Kohanim, the assistant of the Kohanim, used to say the following. Now listen to the words. Kedai hu beit Elokeinu. The house of Hashem is worthwhile. Means the house of Hashem is worthwhile. The destruction of Beit HaMikdash is kedai. La'abed alav tefillah. To lose one tefillah, pam achat bashana, one time in the year. Now what is he saying? He's saying,
don't dip.
Tisha B'Av is when we mourn the Churban. It's kedai to not go to the mikveh one time in the year on Tisha B'Av. It's kedai because you're mourning for the Churban to not go to the mikveh that day. Now let's stop for a second. We were trying to say right before this that what would be the halacha in cold according to the Pircha? Cold would be mutar. Thank you. Cold would be mutar. That's what we refute. Guys, come on, you're killing me over here. Okay, Shema, Chevra, everyone listen good. All right, Chevra. When you're driving a car and you take the wrong turn, you got to reroute. Everybody listen. Let's go through this again. Clear. Let's get this clear, Chevra. The proof and then the Pircha. 2 steps here. Okay, very good. Let's get this clear. What did Rav from RbPaRC say? If it's Mishum Avelut,
Asu.
both Becham and Bitzonen. Clear. What's the proof? The Braita says, Nida goes to the mikvah, Kedarka, in a normal way. Chayavei Tvilot goes like normal. Implies other people do not. So first the Gemara makes assumption, Hava Amina, assumption. It can't be she's going to Chamim because that's Mayim She'uvin, that's drawn water. So it must be, what is she going? For cold water. And you see only she could go, but other people. So this is a proof to Rav from RbPaRC. You see when there's a fast because of Avelut, it's Asur both B'chamin and Sonen. So the Gemara says not a proof. Maybe really she's going in hot water. It's She'uvin. No. She's going in hot water. Chamei Tiveria. Good. She's going in the hot springs of Tiveria. Other people are asur in hot, but everyone's mutar in cold. So the way we're explaining the Braita now, the Braita would hold everyone is mutar in cold.
Yeah.
Good? The problem with saying that is the end of the Braita. Rabbi Chanina Skana Kohanim tells us, Kedayu beit Elokeinu la'abed tefillah pam achat b'shana. It's worthwhile to not go to the mikveh one time in the year because of Chorban Habayit. Okay? Says the Gemara, I don't understand. You're telling me cold is completely mutar. So what are you talking about? If cold is completely mutar,
Why you say
it's completely mutar. It's not even an issue in the first place. The way we're trying to suggest. So just go to a cold mikveh. What's the problem? Even for a regular person, we're suggesting it's mutar. So certainly for a nidad be mutar. So why is he saying don't go to the mikveh? Go to the mikveh in cold, no problem. Everybody hear the kasha. So you can't learn that
He's saying this when it says that they can go to Kedarka. He says it's kedai to not do tevilah.
Correct. Correct.
But we already said that you can go Kedarka.
He's arguing. But the point is, it's true he's arguing, but what we finished saying before was that the debate, the Tanakama is saying she could go in a hot mikveh, but everyone will agree that everyone can go in cold water. If everyone agrees about that, so why is Rabbi Chanina Skana Kohanim saying, don't do one tefillah and Tisha B'Av, just go in cold if everybody agrees that it's mutar elama? What must be?
that you're not allowed
That
to
even
go?
cold is asur. That's so it must be that the Braita holds even cold is asur, and he's saying since for everyone cold is asur, it's kedai she doesn't go even in cold on Tisha B'Av.
Yeah, but then
Let's read that inside. Hold on, let's read that inside. Whoa, good. That's why we're trying to refute the refutation. We're trying to get rid of the pircha. So it must be the Braita is actually saying she could go in cold, the Tanakama is saying, and everyone else would not be allowed to. And he's saying even she shouldn't go in cold. That must be the way to read the Braita. That makes sense.
But this is the end.
Yeah, let's read that inside again. If so, let's look at the end of the Braita. Amar Rabbi Chanina, one second, don't confuse people. Amar Rabbi Chanina Skana Kohanim, Rabbi Chanina Skana Kohanim says, Kedayu beit Elokeinu, that the destruction of Hashem's house is worthwhile, la'abed alav tefillah pam achat b'shana, to lose one tefillah in the year, to disregard, shouldn't go to the mikveh. But says the Gemara, the way you're trying to suggest cold is mutar, that's how you got rid of the proof before, but you're chatz bitzonen. So let her go to a mikveh in cold water, there's no issue. So Ella, let's just explain. It must be, one second.
I mean, if you say it's mutter, that goes against him. It says kedei hu
Balayla, in the night.
So it's still against him. It's still against him if it's cold.
Let me tell you how we read the Braita now. If you read the Braita that it's a proof to Rav from Bar Papa, it fits beautifully. Let me tell you how it would read. The first opinion in the Braita says a woman who's a nidah can go to the mikveh. What is she allowed to go in a mikveh? Cold. But everybody else, that's already a proof to Rav from Bar Papa. Comes along Rabbi Chanina Skana Kohanim, and he says, since for everyone else it's asur, and it's Tisha B'Av. Kedayu beit Elokeinu la'abed tefillah pam achat b'shana. Makes perfect sense.
Maybe
for everyone, don't go to the mikveh.
But not for the woman.
If it's beautifully in the Braita for everyone. That's a Tanakama.
He says it's good.
No, don't go to a cold mikveh. It fits beautifully. But now let's try to fit it the other way. Tanakama was talking about a hot mikveh, and he was saying that she could go to a hachame teveria, but everyone else is not allowed to. But everyone's allowed to go to cold. Well, then why is Rabbi Chanina Skana Kohanim don't go to a cold mikveh? There's nothing to do. So it must be.
He says it's worth it. Nobody should go.
But you understand what you're doing then is you're making them extreme opinions. They're not arguing the same point. Tanakama is saying she could go in hot. And then he's saying, don't even go. It's very extreme. That's not a way to talk.
Maybe
you make it that they're arguing on cold. It's one point and they're arguing. So it fits much better. And now it's back to being a proof. This is a proof to Rav from Bar Papa. Beautiful.
Because he's saying that nobody should
Exactly. That implies, why shouldn't she go? Because for everyone, cold is asur. Now listen to the answer the Gemara is about to give. Everybody with me still? Did I not lose everybody?
Maybe he's talking about everybody.
I don't have a problem with him saying nobody should go.
You want to make it their extreme opinions.
Yeah, why not?
It just seems a less logical way to converse. It's like less logical conversation.
Well, one guy says she can go to hot.
Yeah.
Everyone else can go to cold.
And then the second one says no one can go in cold.
Everyone should go to the mikvah, he says.
No. Exact. Even worse. So what you're doing is you're making them extreme opinions.
So you're saying
It's like illogical way to argue.
She's allowed to go and cold, nobody else can.
Exactly.
You know what? It's worth it to give it one.
You go in the cold. Everyone's asur in cold. You also don't go in cold. Okay. So the Gemara's answer to this.
Shouldn't go to the mikvah and
Okay.
Shabbat.
Okay.
Maybe what the Kohen mean is everybody like demands cannot go.
No, they're talking about a nidah. We're talking about a nidah. They're arguing about a nidah. Yeah.
שאחרי השקיעה, כלומר בערב,
No, that's a different story. We're not talking about that. That's a different story. We're talking about on Tisha B'Av. So listen to the answer the Gemara says. So bottom line, what we're coming out now is we have a proof back for Rav from Bar Papa. It sounds like they're arguing about cold. Tanakama says she could go in a cold mikveh. Rabbi Chanina Skana Kohanim is saying she can't, but the implication is for everyone cold would be asur. She's an exception. So it's a proof. It's a shuma velut. Cold would be asur for everyone else. And then there's a machloket. Is she an exception or not? Okay. So the Gemara says, no, maybe really what the Tanakam was talking about is Chami Tiveria. What's Rabbi Chanina Skana Kohanim saying? We're talking about a place where they don't have cold mikvahs. They don't have cold mikvahs. All they had was Chamei Tveria. They only had Chamei, so therefore the discussion is surrounding hot, because that's what's there. But therefore it's not necessarily a proof. Because maybe really cold would be mutar. We don't know. But that's not the discussion. Let's read that inside. Let's read that.
Any cold
mikvahs, exactly. Amar Rav Papa. So Rav Papa says, the atra de lo shchiach tzonen. It's a location where shchiach means common, where there's not commonly found tzonen, cold mikvahs. So really, what's the Braita talking about? Let's plug it back in. Tanakama is saying she could go to a hot spring, and everybody else is not allowed to. What about cold? Yeah, no, we don't know. Maybe cold is mutar. It's fine. Rabbi Chanina Skana Kohanim says, your only option is hot water. Okay, she shouldn't go in hot water. But maybe cold is mutar. We're not talking about that because it's not there. So back to saying it's not necessarily a raya. It's not necessarily a proof to Rav from Bar Papa. We have 4 steps we just did. Let's go through the 4 steps outside and we'll finish off with this. So first we tried to bring a proof. Bless you.
By the way, this that we lose going to the mikvah one time in the year, you don't really lose it. You just put it off for a day.
Yeah, that's what it means. That's what it means.
It's not a loss.
You're right. It means pushing it off.
Back in the day, you get more ones. Now
COVID.
He gives me a Coke cup.
At least get him some refreshment.
He gave me the wrong cup back.
Yosef, you're a balabayit, bar none. Let's go through the 4 steps here, Chevra. 4 steps and then we'll finish up. First we say is a proof. What's the proof? Tanakama in the Braita says that a woman is allowed, who's chayav in tefillah, she goes to the mikveh kedarkan on Tisha B'Av. Says the Gemara, well, it can't be she's going to a hot mikveh because that's shuvim, it's drawn water. Must be she's going to a cold mikveh. You see, she's allowed to, but other people are not allowed to. Why? Because it's mishum avel. And you see when it's mishum avel, it's even asur in cold. Beautiful proof. Says the Gemara, no. Maybe we're talking about Chamei Tiveria. We're talking about the hot springs. She's allowed to go in the hot springs. Other people cannot go in the hot springs, but maybe cold is bichlal mutar. So therefore you don't have a proof. Says the Gemara, you can't say that. Why? Because the seifa of the Braita, Rabbi Chanina Skana Kohanim, is the 3rd step. He says, Kedayu beit Elokeinu la'abed b'tfilah pam achat b'shana. Don't go to the mikveh that day. So he says, 1 second. If cold is bichlal mutar, so it's mutar for everyone. For sure she could go to mikveh and cold. It must be cold is not mutar. And the Braita is saying, Tanakam is saying, regular people cannot go in cold. She could go in cold. And Rabbi Chanina is saying she also shouldn't go in cold. So now it's back to being a proof. Says the Gemara, no, it's not necessarily a proof. Why is it not a proof? Because maybe they're talking about a place. They only have Chamei Tveria. They only have hot springs. They don't have cold mikvahs. So they're arguing, could she go in the hot mikveh or not? But maybe cold bichlal would be mutar, and therefore you have no proof to Rav from Bar Papa. Okay? We have to go over it. Zat Hashem, let's go over. Let's do Chazara. Let's stop here, Chevra. We'll pick up next time. Zat Hashem. All right.